Northamptonshire, in the centre of England, on a swelteringly hot July afternoon, scene of round 9 of the 1983 World Championship for Formula One racing cars. An ex-airfield circuit and still being used today very much as an airfield, because look at that string of light aircraft on the left of the picture. They've all been flying in since dawn, and the cars have been queuing to get in since dawn. 85,000 people is a conservative estimate of the shirt-sleeved crowd here waiting for Britain's Festival of Motor Racing. There is the world champion on the grid, Keke Rosberg. He's pretty warm too as he gets his crash helmet ready. All the cars down on the grid now, and a tremendously fast lap from that man, René Arnoux in Ferrari number 28. Arnoux on pole position, Tombe alongside him, both of them in the new Ferrari C3s. Arnoux averaging almost 152 miles an hour in practice. Prost's Renault and De Angelis in the new turbo Renault-powered Lotus on row 2. Patrese and Piquet in the turbo BMW-powered Brabhams on row 3. Chiva's Renault and Winkelhock's ATS on row 4. So turbos dominating the front of the grid, as was expected on this very, very fast circuit. It's turbos on row 5 as well, De Cesaris in the Alfa, and Derek Warwick in the British Tolman, 10th fastest. Baldi and Giacomelli come next, Baldi's Alfa, Giacomelli in the second Tolman. Then we get the fastest of the non-turbos, and it is world champion Keke Rosberg carrying number 1 with the Williams. Alongside him, Stefan Johansson, the young Swede, having his first Grand Prix and the first Grand Prix for the Honda-powered Spirit. Niki Lauda's McLaren and Michele Alboretto's Tyrrell are next, then the young Belgian Boutsen in the Arrows, and Nigel Mansell, who's also got one of the new Lotus 94s with turbo Renault power, his first run with a turbo Renault in the back of the Lotus. The new car, lots of trouble for him in practice. He's hoping it's going to go better. Sura's Arrows, Lafitte's Williams, Guerrero's Theodore, Bazel's Ligier, Danny Sullivan's Tyrrell, John Watson's McLaren, well done. He had a lot of trouble in practice. Then Gerrier's Ligier and Ginzani and the Azella right on the back row of the grid. Now, in the World Championship, this man, Alain Prost, is still the leader. He's got 30 points, but only 3 points behind Patrick Tombe, the Ferrari man on the front row, and Nelson Piquet in the Brabham, and a further 2 points down, Keke Rosberg in the Williams. So things still very, very close and very open after 8 rounds of the championship, roughly at halfway point. In this long and gruelling year. René Arnoux down in 5th place with his Ferrari with only 17 points, so he's a long way down, and John Watson on 16 with his McLaren. So those valuable championship points here at stake. You get 9 points for a win, down to 1 point for 6th place, and it's championship points that they want. There is the poleman Arnoux coming through to take up his pole position. Patrick Tombe alongside him on the left of the picture with number 27. And there is that amazing lap, 69 seconds, 69.462 seconds for René Arnoux, a superb qualifying time, and that's the fastest lap ever around Silverstone and makes this the fastest Grand Prix circuit in the season. So 26 cars curving away round Woodcote for the start. This is going to be the first of 67 laps, and they're all away. The 2 Ferraris moving away and the 2 Renaults tucking in behind, but that's Patrese with the Brabham who's up there with them. Arnoux briefly leading from pole position, but Tombe is alongside as they go into Copse. The 2 Ferraris absolutely side by side with Prost tucked in behind them. Ferrari and Renault. Then Brabham and Renault as they go through Maggot's curve and on down. Oh, and a twitch there from Prost, but it's Tombe who's gone ahead as they come into Beckett's. Tombe, Arnoux and Prost lead, and Rosberg that was coming storming up the inside. Oh, and Rosberg on the grass on the right of the picture. A big moment for number 1, the world champion Rosberg, storming his way through, but he's back on the tarmac, and it's the Ferraris out in front. Patrick Tombe as they go down to Stowe Corner. Tombe number 27 with the blue helmet. Arnoux number 28 with the white helmet. Prost, Patrese and Eddie Chiva are next in that first 5, and already Patrick Tombe with the new Ferrari C3, a chassis designed by the British Harvey Postlethwaite, the British designer who works with Ferrari now, and this is the first race for the latest C3 Ferrari, and goodness me, it looks like an effective piece of machinery. Into the chicane to complete the first of 67 laps. Swinging neatly through the chicane goes Tombe, Arnoux, Prost, Patrese, Chiva. storming their way through. Piquet is going to be next up, the rest of the field streaming through, and already the leaders are at Copse for the second time, out of Copse, using the curb going out, and Tombe seems to be pulling away a little bit. Tombe pulling away from his teammate Arnoux, and it's Arnoux who's got his mirrors absolutely full as they come into Beckett's of the yellow and black Renault. Oh, and De Angelis on fire. De Angelis, a major engine blow up. That's the new Renault powered Lotus, and already it's out of the race. Flames licking from underneath, and that looks like a comprehensive engine blow up. Elio De Angelis walking away. It's lap 2, and that's sad news indeed for Lotus. This new car already in trouble. So the Renaults pursuing with the Brabham, these two Ferraris out in front. Still Patrick Thomas. That was a glimpse of the other Lotus, number 12. That's Nigel Mansell, who started in 18th place and is working his way through the traffic already. But under the Daily Express Bridge for the second time and up into the chicane, still Patrick Tombe, the leader in Ferrari number 27. And Arnoux has shaken off the attentions of Prost just a little bit. Patrese, Chiva, Piquet, then it's De Cesaris, then the yellow and black nose, not of a Renault, the next up, but it was the German ATS of Manfred Winkelhock. But that Parmalat car, that's the Brabham storming through of Patrese. Patrese, who's under a lot of pressure in the Brabham team because there are plenty of rumours that he's going to leave, or he's going to be asked to leave the Brabham team at the end of the year, and that's Bruno Giacomelli already in the pits, coming very briskly into the pits. Whatever his trouble is, he wants to get it fixed. Bruno Giacomelli and the Tolman already in the pits as we once again watch Patrick Tombe out in front. The new Ferrari C3, its bodywork now very similar to the old C2B, but obviously lighter, obviously working extremely well. And there the positions after 2 laps, but this is lap 3 as they go through Abbey Curve, the very fast uphill left-hander, and come under the bridge. That's Giacomelli's car in the pits, the Candy Tolman Turbo. And this is the 3rd time through the chicane for Tombe, for Arnoux, for Prost, and for Patrese. And Piquet is next up, so the two Brabhams are now together. That must mean that Eddie Cheever's got a problem. Problem we think for Eddie Cheever. It's a very, very hot day here, and we're all expecting problems for some of these cars at least. A 650 horsepower turbocharged engine is a very delicate piece of machinery, and very often these turbos don't like the heat. De Cesaris leading Winkelhock, and that's Derek Warwick and Nigel Mansell 3rd and 4th in that little trio. That's Nigel Mansell, number 12. Remember, we've seen Elio De Angelis, his teammate, out of the race, but Nigel Mansell pursuing Derek Warwick in this battle there, just out of the points. This must be the battle for 8th place according to our lap charts as they go down Hanger Straight and down towards Stowe Corner. This is the Brabham of Piquet. Then we see De Cesaris. The yellow car is Winkelhock. Then the red and blue car is Derek Warwick. That's Warwick in the Candy Tolman, and on his tail, oh, and on the grass briefly there, Nigel Mansell, who's driving his heart out to close the gap to his compatriot Derek Warwick. Now, over the start-finish line, Tombe, and look at that lead that Tombe's pulling out. The red leading car, Tombe from Arnoux. Arnoux has Prost on his tail, a little puff of flame there from Patrese's car, which is the Brabham in 4th place. Very often these turbocharged cars puff flame from their exhausts as the drivers come off the throttle and hit the brakes, and Prost is threatening Arnoux for 2nd place. Tombe through Beckett's, and Arnoux is under the greatest possible pressure from Prost. Prost looking one side then the other. Arnoux protecting his 2nd place, and that is Cheever's Renault. That is Cheever's Renault in the pits. We thought it was having trouble, we thought it was out, and out indeed it is. Eddie Cheever's Renault Turbo, that's another turbocharged car in trouble. That's Stephanie Hansen with the Honda-powered Spirit. So already this race is starting to take its toll. 9 laps now completed, and still on the ragged edge is the yellow Renault of Alain Prost in third place, pursuing number 28, the second place Ferrari of René Arnoux. Patrick Tambay out in the lead, Arnoux protecting him from behind and hanging on to this second place. Less than a second between the leading Ferraris, and Tambay certainly can't relax, although he knows he's got his own teammate protecting his place to a degree. There's Piquet now in fourth place. Nelson Piquet now fourth as they start their 10th lap. Arnoux and Prost battling for second place. Note how they run up the curbs as they come out of Cops Corner using every inch. And we said that Piquet had moved up into fourth place. That's because it's all over for Patrese by the look of things. That telltale oily smoke from the exhaust pipe of the Parmalat BMW powered Brabham. Riccardo Patrese, who so wanted to go better than his own teammate Nelson Piquet, because as we were saying earlier, his position in the Brabham team in some doubt now. But it's Patrese who's out, and it's Piquet who's now fourth. Here he is, Nelson Piquet, the Brazilian, carrying number 5. Slightly different nose section on these Brabhams for this race, and more smoke from, and a very, very spluttery exhaust note from Riccardo Patrese, the Italian, as he comes gently into the pits, and that certainly looks like something terminal in the engine. Yes, Patrese, in no hurry at all, turns the car into the pit. The Brabham mechanics cluster round, the smoke hanging over the back of the car. And in this heat, one more turbo bites the dust. Now that's Tambay storming his way through Maggot's curve down into Beckett's, and still Prost hasn't been able to find a way past René Arnoux and into second place. He's got to do something about these Ferraris. Nelson Piquet here, the red flash of helmet in the blue and white Brabham, keeping a watching brief in fourth place. Now watch that Renault close up under braking for Stowe Corner. Out of Stowe Corner, on the edge, down towards Club Corner. Fourth gear, 140 miles an hour. There's Piquet watching behind. Oh, and a little twitch there from Arnoux. Arnoux using every inch of the road. Look at Arnoux, glance in his mirrors, trying to make sure that he's driving defensively and keeping the door shut in case a little dart from Prost behind him. Oh, and Prost getting very close under braking there, darting indeed right up to Arnoux in the chicane. And already with 11 laps completed, this is lap 12, they're lapping the tail ender. That is the Azella of Ghinzani being lapped. Blue flags for the Azella, who keeps well over to the right of the road as the field goes storming past him down. They're through Beckett's now, they're on down the Hangar Straight. And look how close Prost is getting at Beckett's. Prost looking every inch, one side, then the other. Arnoux having to keep the door shut, and all this time Tambay is able to extend his lead, and Prost must find a way down. Once again he closes up under braking for Stowe. Tambay goes through. Arnoux, Prost and Piquet are now very close together. We've got a 3-car battle for second place. This is lap 12. Once again, both Arnoux and Prost right over the curbs coming out of Club. Then the left-hander for Abbey Curve up the hill, under the bridge, up to the chicane. Now is Prost going to have a little look at the inside of the chicane? Now Prost closes right up for the chicane. Tambay's through the chicane. Arnoux is through, and the Brabham of Piquet has dropped back just a little bit in fourth place. I think perhaps Piquet, who's a very canny driver, has decided he's going to await the outcome of this wonderful second place battle, because if these two cars get into trouble with one another, Nelson Piquet, who's behind them, wants to be able to steer around them. So Piquet has dropped back, and the second place battle continues with René Arnoux holding off Alain Prost. Oh, and Prost tries the other side that time, coming out of Beckett's. Now he's going to try and tuck himself in the slipstream as they go down Hangar Straight. 185 miles an hour here on the brakes for Stowe Corner, through Stowe Corner, on the edge. And both cars occasionally putting wheels on the grass, coming out of these very, very fast corners. Yes, right on the edge there. Once again, up the slight rise through Abbey Curve and up towards the chicane once more. Tombe still the leader, Piquet still fourth, but Arnoux holding on to this second place ahead of Prost. Prost really with the bit between his teeth. And now's the time to remember that René Arnoux and Alain Prost are no longer friends. They used to be teammates in the Renault team. Oh, and Prost goes through. Prost goes storming through. A superb manoeuvre at Copse Corner. And Arnoux and Prost, as we were saying, fell out very much during their time at Renault in the last season, and Piquet almost going through now. Arnoux apparently demoralised by having lost that place to Prost, and now Piquet is finally trying to find a way through also. Still Patrick Tambay the leader in the Ferrari. Alain Prost now the new second man in his Renault, and Arnoux holding on very, very by the slimmest margin to his third place from Nelson Piquet. Now it's going to be interesting to see whether Alain Prost can now close the gap to Patrick Tambay, because he's found his way past Arnoux, and Piquet looking very threatening now for Arnoux. I wonder if Arnoux has perhaps worn his tyres in that early charge, because Tambay is looking much steadier in the lead than is his teammate René Arnoux, an apparently identical car. Prost goes through, and Piquet threatening René Arnoux for third place. This is lap 15 now as they cross the start-finish line and go down to Copse once more. The Ferrari with the typically hunched posture of René Arnoux in the cockpit. He always tucks his head down and crouches over the wheel. The rather more relaxed looking Nelson Piquet behind him, and Piquet now gets almost alongside as they go down into Beckett's there. Piquet doing exactly what Alain Prost was doing last time. A little puff of flame from the Brabham's exhaust as he comes off the power through Stowe. And Arnoux looking at the mirrors, trying to see which way Piquet's going to go. Piquet's going to challenge on the inside of Club this time. 145 miles an hour there. They accelerate up to 185 up this slight rise through the flat-out left-hander of Abbey Curve under the Daily Express Bridge. And Piquet hangs back a little bit and then closes once more under braking. Prost is through the chicane and away. And Arnoux bouncing the Ferrari's left-hand front wheel over the curb there. Once again, Arnoux glances in his mirror. You see his head move, then he turns the Ferrari into Copse Corner, 130 miles an hour now, up into fourth gear, up into fifth gear, 160 as they go down into Beckett's. Beckett's the slowest corner of the circuit, down to about 110 miles an hour. That was a glimpse of Marc Surer, the Swiss driver, who's being lapped. He's been lapped by the first two, by Tambay and by Prost, and he's now got Arnoux and Piquet coming through. Now this is going to be interesting because the back markers can well play unconsciously or unintentionally a role in the race, because Arnoux has got to defend the attack of Piquet, and Piquet is using the back marker. Piquet, they almost nudge wheels there. Piquet was going to use the moment's delay, and when Arnoux had to pass the back marker, had to pass Surer, Piquet thought that was his chance to get alongside, and he so nearly did. But Arnoux, driving brilliantly there, managed to hold it all together. That was a very, very crowded moment indeed. Piquet's had to drop back, and now Nelson Piquet, the Brazilian's got it all to do again, because that's given René Arnoux a little tiny breathing space as they go down to Copse Corner for the 17th time. A little bit of a gap has opened out between Arnoux and Nelson Piquet in this battle for third place. Still Patrick Tambay the leader, there he is. There, the yellow car behind him is Alain Prost, and Prost has indeed closed the gap up to Patrick Tambay, and I don't think it's long before Alain Prost, the flying Frenchman, is going to close on the Ferrari driving Frenchman, Patrick Tambay. Arnoux still there, third. Piquet still there, fourth. They've just lapped Roberto Guerrero's Theodore. Once again, that puff of flame from the exhaust of the Brabham, and turbocharged cars absolutely dominating the race today under the Daily Express Bridge. Down into Woodcote once more. Again, the Brabham closes a little bit under braking. That chicane, which looks so tight, they take it in third gear at 125 miles an hour. Start, finish straight, shimmering in the heat. Copse Corner. Up on the curb once more for both René Arnoux and Nelson Piquet into Beckett's. Then there's the left-hand curve that follows Beckett's down so quickly to Stowe Corner, as we see Tambay now under real pressure. Prost is up to Tambay, and clearly Alain Prost is the fastest man on the circuit at the moment. He's dealt with René Arnoux. He's now got Patrick Tambay in his sights, and now it's Tambay's turn to have to drive defensively. His pit signals will have shown him the inexorable process of Alain Prost, the gap in seconds getting smaller and smaller. In front of them, one of the Tyrrells to be lapped, and Tambay's going to find that the back markers could well make his task particularly difficult, because Prost is going to try and do to Tambay exactly what Piquet was trying to do. They're past Danny Sullivan in the Tyrrell, but it was Piquet who was trying to use the back marker, and he's got another one to use now, and both of them go through. That was one of the arrows again. And now Tambay looking really under threat. Down to Stowe Corner, past the grandstands. Tambay driving very smoothly, much more smoothly than René Arnoux. You note that Tambay doesn't seem to use the curbs quite as much as René Arnoux does. Tambay positioning his car absolutely correctly on the road as they go through Abbey. But there's no doubt that this Renault is closing all the time. Under braking he's closing. Through the chicane, third gear, fourth gear, away, as we now see the new third man, because he's done it. Piquet has done it, and Prost's done it. So just as we see Piquet up into third place, Alain Prost has taken the lead. The Ferraris are vanquished by the Renault, and on lap 20, Alain Prost is in the lead, and Patrick Tambay is demoted to second place. There is the new third man. The blue and white car is Nelson Piquet. He is now third. Danny Sullivan in the green Tyrrell about to be lapped, and demoted to fourth place is René Arnoux. So Alain Prost doing it absolutely correctly. We see them coming into Stowe again in an action replay, and Tambay didn't seek to shut the door. Tambay sensibly yielded. He wasn't going to be able to keep Prost behind, so he decided to let him through, and Prost storming through, nothing that Tambay could do about it, but he's now going to see if he can stay with the Renault, and helped by the back markers, indeed he is doing that. That's Alboreto's Tyrrell now to be lapped. There's Piquet, and there's Arnoux with Danny Sullivan's Tyrrell, which they have lapped. Alboreto is passed by the leader, and that has helped Prost, because he was able to get past Alboreto, and for a moment the Ferrari of Tambay was delayed. But Tambay also passed now. Still in fifth place, De Cesaris in the Alpha. Still in sixth place, Winkelhock in the ATS. And the great battle, which you haven't seen on screen, but it's still going on for seventh place, between Nigel Mansell in the Renault turbo-powered Lotus and Derek Warwick, who is eighth in the Turbo Tolman. Alain Prost pulling away from Patrick Tambay. Alboreto Raoul Boesel to be lapped. And there is Derek Warwick in the pits. We were just mentioning his 8th place. They're changing tyres, they're putting fuel in, but it's too early. I'm worried that Derek Warwick has come in so early. They've put in the fuel, they've changed the tyres anyway, but this is much too early for a routine stop for Derek Warwick, and I think that car must be in trouble. Well, it's, yes, you notice suddenly the mechanics slow down after having done that very rapid change of tyres, and they've got the fuel topped up. They realise that it's more than that. The mechanics apparently looking at the gearbox at the back of the car. And what sad news that is for Derek Warwick, because today was the day that he was so sure that Tolman were going to be in the championship points at last. Derek Warwick was really hoping for a position in the first 6 today, and Tombe now himself under pressure from Nelson Piquet. So the Ferraris are very much vanquished now. The Ferraris using Goodyear tyres, the Brabham, and of course the Renault using Michelin tyres, and very often it's a choice of tyre that can make such a difference. You saw a glimpse there of Keke Rosberg, who's about to be lapped, the world champion, simply not in the championship points hunt here. And soon we're going to start to get the routine pit stops. The cars are now coming up to complete 29 laps. The leader's coming up to complete 29 laps as Tombe passes one of the Ligiers, lapping him, and Tombe puts his arm up there. I don't know quite what that was all about. Was he thanking the Ligier for letting him by, or was he indeed saying, why didn't you let me by more quickly? Whatever the reason, Tombe has got the Brabham very, very close to him now. Once again, that little puff of flame from the exhaust of the Brabham, but Patrick Tombe is having to work very, very hard now for his 2nd place because Piquet is challenging. And an arm up there from, that was Keke Rosberg, was it not, waving them by? I think that was Keke Rosberg. Yes, the world champion acknowledging that the battle for 2nd place has got to come past him. He's going to try and tuck in behind and see if he can get a little bit of a tow. But Keke Rosberg already lapped. This is lap 30 of the 67. And we're watching the battle for 2nd place, with Patrick Tombe holding off Nelson Piquet. René Arnoux is still 4th, De Cesare is still 5th, Winkelhock still 6th, Nigel Mansell is still 7th. But sadly, out of the race is Derek Warwick. And meanwhile, John Watson, we haven't seen anything of him, but he's been doing a typically workmanlike job coming through from 24th place on the grid, and he's climbing, and on our lap charts he's now 10th. So John Watson moving up, and Nelson Piquet moving up once more to challenge Patrick Tombe for 2nd place. Tombe having to drive once more very defensively, and Piquet goes through. He doesn't. Piquet could not have got closer at Beckett's all the way up the inside, but Tombe moved across to take his line, and Piquet had to wait for another lap. Now he's tucked in the slipstream. What's going to happen when they break for Stowe? 165, 170 miles an hour, and there's a back marker. Oh, and that couldn't be closer because they're almost locking wheels there. Almost wheels interlocked because Tombe had to slow briefly because once again there's a back marker to pass. The back marker waves them by. The Arrows driver, that was Mark Surer again, waves them by. But Tombe giving no help at all, quite understandably and quite correctly. This is real cut and thrust driving between two absolutely top-class drivers, and now Piquet surely must go through. Piquet does it into the chicane. Now Nelson Piquet is up into 2nd place, and Patrick Tombe fought every inch of the road to hold on to that 2nd place and has finally had to yield Ferrari to Brabham. So the two Ferraris, which started on the front row of the grid, now in 3rd and 4th places. The leader still Alain Prost. This is lap 32 of the 67. Alain Prost leads for Renault. Nelson Piquet is 2nd for Brabham BMW. The Ferraris of Patrick Tombe and René Arnoux are 3rd and 4th. De Cesaris in the Alfa is 5th. 6th is the ATS of Winkelhock. And 7th Nigel Mansell in the Lotus. We see it again, it's into the chicane, nosing up on the inside comes the Brabham, and Tombe stays out from the apex. There's nothing he can do about it. His Ferrari sliding a little bit as he cuts in behind, but a perfectly executed manoeuvre by the Brazilian. Piquet is through to second place. And that's a pit stop for Watson. This is Watson's routine stop, and this is new for McLaren's, because McLaren's are using the technique of starting on half-full tanks for the first time. It's a slow one. The tyres were quick, but the fuel was slow. And now he can't get it into gear. Look at his arm across. He's trying to get the car into gear. And that was very slow for Watson. I made that about 20 seconds. But this is Arnoux coming into the pits now. These are the routine stops. Remember, they've started on half-full tanks. Their tyres will now be very worn and very hot. Their fuel tanks will be nearly empty. And the Ferrari team going into action. All the mechanics wearing protective gear. The wheels are flung away. 10 seconds up. The fuel's done. The back tyres are done, the car's off the jacks. It's 15.45 seconds, a very, very good stop indeed for Arnoux. He was in fourth place. He will have lost that fourth place now, but all the people racing around him have also got to make pit stops, because all the turbocharged cars are making pit stops. So are McLaren, so once again are Williams. Frank Williams reckons that even when you've calculated the length of time it takes to slow down and start up again, and the 15 or so seconds that a quick pit stop will last, even with that, there's a 15 seconds advantage in making a stop. This is second man Nelson Piquet coming through the heat haze, and Patrick Tombe passes the Theodore of Roberto Guerrero, laps it in fact. Still Tombe in third place. Arnoux has dropped out of the fourth place, but of course he's had his pit stop. There the Renault mechanics ready, the distinctive yellow and black. That means that it won't be long before leader Alain Prost, there he is, tucked in behind Ghinzani's Azella. Blue flag for Ghinzani, past goes the Renault through Maggot's curve and down into Beckett's, and the Renault mechanics are ready. Each one of those mechanics has an allotted job to do. 30 gallons of fuel will go into this car, 4 new wheels and tyres will go on it, and the whole operation, if it goes well, should take no more than 14 seconds. But of course you've got to add to that the length of time it takes for the car to slow down, come through the twisting pit entry road. 14 or so seconds for a good stop is the time that it's actually stationary, but it actually loses a bit more time. This is Niki Lauda coming through that tight twist that leads to the pits. Niki Lauda then coming in for his pit stop, so this is the second of the official pit stops for the McLarens. John Watson's had his, and you saw he had that gear selection problem. On go the tyres, the fuel's going in, the two men in the middle of the car dealing with the fuel, and here comes Prost. Here is leader Prost coming in for his pit stop. Now, this is so important because Nelson Piquet in second place is not very far away. If it's a good stop for Piquet and a bad stop for Prost, it could change the leadership of the race. The back tyres are on, the front tyres are on, the fuel's going in the middle, the fuel's done. It's going to be a quick one. 14.49 seconds, less than 14 and a half seconds. That's a good one, and now we've got one of the Ferraris in. This must be Tombe. It's Patrick Tombe. 30 gallons of fuel, 4 new tyres. The car's up on its jacks, it's off its jacks, the mechanics pull the jacks away, and that's 14.6 seconds. A little squirrely movement from the back of the car as he powers 650 horsepower through the back tyres. And of course that's going to help to warm them up. They're going to need to be warm as Keke Rosberg is about to be relapped by Alain Prost. He waves him by. Little gesture there from a so professional driver. Keke Rosberg, the reigning world champion, can do nothing today on the fast open stretches of Silverstone. He can do absolutely nothing about the power of these turbocharged cars. So Prost has made his stop. Tombe and Arnoux in the Ferraris have made theirs, but out in the lead still we've got Nelson Piquet in the Brabham, and he's still got his stop to come. Well, I wonder if Brabham are having us all on, because remember, in the Detroit Grand Prix, everybody said that the Brabhams were going to stop for fuel and tyres as they usually do. There's Nigel Mansell, and he hasn't stopped yet, so he's up into 3rd place. That gives you the order. Nigel Mansell with a pit stop still to come. He is expecting to make a stop. Here he comes through the chicane. That's Nigel Mansell doing a wonderful job in this new Lotus 94. Mansell had endless trouble with this car in practice, and in the end he had to score his qualifying time with the old Lotus Renault, which is not nearly so quick, it's heavier, it doesn't handle so well. And Nigel Mansell has started from 18th place on the grid. There is Mansell into Beckett's. He started 18th, he's up to 3rd. A tremendous performance indeed, but he's got his pit stop still to come. Leader Piquet has still got to stop. There is leader Piquet. Alain Prost in 2nd place has stopped. So Piquet is going to have a miraculously quick stop if he's going to be able to regain the lead. Through the chicane, Piquet. Winkelhock in the ATS followed. Winkelhock has already made his stop, and this is lap 40 now of the 67. So Piquet is leaving his pit stop late. I was just telling you that in Detroit we were expecting him to stop and he didn't, and had he not had a puncture in the closing stages of the race, Nelson Piquet would have won that race. Everybody was expecting him to stop, but in fact the car was on harder tyres and it was on full tanks, and he went the whole distance without refueling, or he would have done had he not had that puncture. So Piquet on through the heat haze here. It is still very, very hot. Remember, Piquet's teammate Patrese has retired with an engine failure. We understand that Derek Warwick's trouble was indeed gearbox. We saw the mechanics looking at the back of the car, and it's gearbox that's put him out. The Spirit Honda is out with engine trouble, and still it's hot. And still Nelson Piquet leads the field with his pit stop to come. Out of Abbey Curve, up under the Daily Express Bridge now. A wave of a Union Jack from the crowd, and I'm sure they're waving that when Nigel Mansell goes by. He's not going to stop this time. Piquet doesn't stop. This is lap 41 now of the 67. So perhaps Piquet is going to outfox us all, and that's a bit of a Ligier. That is a Ligier engine cover sitting in the middle of the road opposite the pits on the start-finish straight. I don't know quite what they're going to be able to do about that, because it's going to be a brave marshal who's going to run and get that. These cars are so strung out that it's going to be very difficult for anybody to get that piece of bodywork. It's a rear engine cover off a Ligier, and it's lying in the middle of the road. Nelson Piquet, the leader, with this pit stop, if he's going to make it, still to come. Piquet up the hill towards Abbey Curve, through Abbey Curve at 155 miles an hour, up to 170 under the Daily Express Bridge. The blue flags are waving for the people in front of him, but he's coming in. Nelson Piquet is coming in. Piquet in the pit entry road. Now, Brabham and Gordon Murray, the Brabham team chief, virtually invented or reinvented the refueling stop. They know exactly how to do it. Let's get the stopwatch on it and see how quick this one's going to be. He's stationary now. The car pops up on its automatic jacks. There it goes. Off come the wheels. On go the wheels. The front wheels are done in 7 seconds. The rear wheels are done. The fuel's done. It's a quick one. It's 12.26 seconds. That is the quickest we've seen today. The McLaren mechanics doing an absolutely perfect job, but then he was delayed coming out of the pits because there was that looked like one of the Ligiers. In fact, it's probably the car that lost its engine cover. It's Raoul Boesel in front of him, and that delayed Nelson Piquet briefly. He didn't come storming out of the pits as I think he wanted to, and while all that was going on, the new leader, the former leader and now the new leader, Alain Prost, has gone through to take the lead again. So Prost has stopped, Piquet has stopped, and they're back into first and second places with about 2 seconds between them in their pit stops. 12 1/4 for Piquet, a superbly quick stop, but not much more than 14.5 seconds for the Renault of Alain Prost, and now both of them safely back in the race. And is Nigel Mansell going to stop? He's not going to stop this time. Mansell still in third place and doing a magnificent job in the new Lotus 94, and that engine cover is still there. Mansell coming up to Mauro Baldi's Alpha, coming up to lap Baldi, and that fiberglass engine cover is still lying in the middle of the road on the start-finish straight. And that could give a few nasty moments. I suppose all the drivers have seen it now, they all know it's there and they can prepare for it, but Nigel Mansell, oh, and that's Rosberg in. Keke Rosberg having his routine stop. We haven't got the watch on it, but the Williams team run away, literally run away from the car, and it's off. Look at the rear tyres spinning, rubber smoke coming off Rosberg's rear tyres as he powers back into the race. And we see once again at Beckett's the mighty Renault. With there is the order after 42 laps, but Mansell in second place, of course he is now, not third as I was telling you, because Piquet has stopped and Mansell hasn't, but Mansell has a pit stop still to come. Prost on his way. That's Sullivan's Tyrrell going through. That's Mauro Baldi, and here comes Mansell. Mansell is indeed coming in. This very gracefully shaped, rounded shaped Lotus 94, a much prettier car than the 93 that preceded it, and Mansell doing a wonderful job here at the British Grand Prix, his home British Grand Prix. The car is stationary now, off goes the watch, the fuel going in, the car's up on its jacks, on go the new wheels, the old wheels roll away, the front wheels are done, the back wheels are done, up go the arms, the mechanics to show that it's done, the fuel's done, and he's away in 13 seconds. So that's a good one for Nigel Mansell. The mechanics heaving a sigh of relief, knowing that their bit of the job is done. So important, these pit stops, because of course if one mechanic fumbles with that fuel hose, at the least it's going to lose time for the driver. At worst it could produce a tragedy or a near tragedy, as we had in Brazil when Keke Rosberg's car caught fire. His moustache was singed, he leapt from the car, they put the fire out, he got back in again, they pushed him off, he carved his way back to second place, one of the great drives of his career, and then they disqualified him for the push start in the pits. There's no justice in motor racing, and this is lap 45 of the 67. Alain Prost, the heat shimmering off the Silverstone circuit. And remember that Alain Prost's teammate Eddie Cheever was an early retirement with engine trouble. We don't know exactly what broke in the American's engine. Eddie Cheever, the American who lives in Italy, 17.5 seconds now the gap between Prost and Piquet. And that's probably quite a nice little cushion for Prost. What he's got to do is to preserve it, not let Piquet get too close, and his pit signals will be telling him that gap that we've just seen, that 17.5 second gap. The Renault pit will be clocking that gap on their stopwatches every single lap, and on the next time round it'll be on the pit board, the pit signal will be hung out to Alain Prost to tell him where he stands in the race. Of course, where he stands is in the lead, working his way still through these endless back markers, and the back marker that he's got to pass is in fact Niki Lauda's McLaren. Niki Lauda, who is just out of the points but going strongly. Niki Lauda in fact the leading non-turbocharged car at the moment. So Lauda, who hasn't had any wins at all since this race last year when it was at Brands Hatch. Niki Lauda driving a strong race. Prost is past him, and Lauda will follow Prost, try to stay near enough to get a tow, but with 120 brake horsepower difference, the turbo Renault just pulls away from the non-turbo McLaren. And I bet Niki Lauda is thinking, you wait, Prost, I've got my turbocharged engine coming soon. There's the new TAG turbo engine, which is going to be fitted to the McLaren, and we'll be seeing that. It's a Porsche-built engine. It's very, very powerful, and we'll be seeing that in a couple of races' time. And Nigel Mansell is still driving hard, up on the curb that time. Mansell driving his heart out as he was, as we remarked earlier in the race, and Mansell still going absolutely hell for leather. Now, with his pit stop completed, let's just look at where that's left him in the order. Mansell has come out in 5th place. He's got René Arnoux in front of him in 4th. He's got Patrick Tambay still there in front of him in 3rd. Piquet, of course, is 2nd, and Prost is leading. As we watch Prost coming up to lap, Manfred Winkelhock, the dark yellow car with the black sides, the light yellow car with the white engine cover and the black sides. The darker one is the German ATS, the lighter one is the leader, Alain Prost. That was Lauda briefly in the picture there. And on the long straight, Prost laps Winkelhock with absolutely... Oh, he doesn't. Naughty Winkelhock. That was an absolutely inexcusable manoeuvre, and that very nearly took Prost off. Winkelhock knows that the leader is behind him trying to lap him, and he just chopped him at the apex of Stowe Corner there, and Prost had a little nasty moment. Now Winkelhock points to the right-hand side and says, go past me on the right. But in fact, Prost can't get through there, and Prost is still stuck behind Winkelhock. So the German, always a very fast and very brave driver, but nothing like as experienced as Alain Prost, who's having his 51st Grand Prix now. And still Prost is stuck behind Winkelhock and trying to lap him. Prost knows that he's got this nice lead, 18 seconds now, over Piquet, and he doesn't want to throw it away with a bad lapping manoeuvre, but now he is through. He's through at Maggot's Curve at 165 miles an hour they get up to there before braking for the 110 mile an hour Beckett's corner. They're through Beckett's, and Winkelhock in 6th place is lapped by the leader, Alain Prost. This is lap 48 now. Lap 48 of the 67. On down towards Club Corner, and a clear road in front of the leader now, with this useful cushion back to second man Nelson Piquet. Still the two Ferraris in 3rd and 4th place, and still Nigel Mansell going so very well in 5th place, and I think Nigel Mansell is closing. In fact, he is. He's closing. He's closed. I was just about to say that Mansell is closing on René Arnoux, and now you see it. This is the battle for 4th place. This is René Arnoux, the pole position man, with the very determined Nigel Mansell absolutely frantic to find a way past. Trying one side then the other. They're absolutely alongside as they go down to Club. But once again, the Ferrari has to nose ahead as they brake for Club. That's 130 mile an hour corner there, and and he's through on the inside of Abbey Curve. That's a very, very brave place to do it indeed, because they're doing 165 miles an hour there, but Nigel Mansell just forced his way past René Arnoux and is already pulling away. This is lap 48. We're going to see it again up the inside of this very fast left-hander, and as Arnoux tries to take the apex, he can't because Mansell is there. Mansell takes the apex and slides out in front of the Ferrari. A very high-speed manoeuvre indeed, but that's what it takes to put the Lotus Renault 94 into 4th place. Nigel Mansell, who's had so little luck in his home Grand Prix, he didn't qualify at all here 2 years ago at Silverstone, wasn't even able to start the race, and he retired at Brands Hatch last year. But now, Nigel Mansell, number 12, into 4th place. Winkelhock has slipped down, and that has promoted Niki Lauda into 6th place. And on this ultra-fast circuit, that's a magnificent effort for Lauda, because remember, he is in a non-turbocharged car. That McLaren has a Cosworth engine, but he is up into the points and in 6th place. Mansell at the point where he passed Arnoux, Abbey Curve. Arnoux chases him under the Daily Express Bridge, down for the 49th time into the chicane, And look how Arnoux has already fallen well behind this new Lotus. There's that engine cover still sitting in the middle of the road, as we see Mansell go through Cox Corner. And this is very much a Lotus renaissance, because Lotus have been very much in the doldrums since the death of Colin Chapman, the man who absolutely dominated that team and led it for most of his working life. Colin Chapman no longer with us. Peter Waugh running the team now. But what has really helped them to make a change for the better, as we watch the new sixth man, Niki Lauda, what has really helped Lotus take a turn for the better is the arrival of Gérard Ducarouge, the Frenchman who left Alfa Romeo and came just 6 weeks ago to Lotus. In 5 weeks he's designed and built a new car. That's Niki Lauda lapping one of the Arrows again. That's Marc Surer being lapped, and that's Piquet coming through as well. So Piquet soon to lap Niki Lauda. Niki Lauda is sixth, Piquet is second. This is lap 55 now, so 12 laps left to run. And still the leader, Alain Prost. Still second, Nelson Piquet. Still third, Patrick Tambay. Now a magnificent fourth, Nigel Mansell. Fifth is René Arnoux, and sixth is Niki Lauda. There is second man, Nelson Piquet. The Brabham very, very quick today, but just not quick enough, because nobody's quick enough to get near the Renault. Down the Hanger Straight, a wonderful sight, into Stowe Corner, fourth gear, 150 miles an hour. They come out of that corner, the little short straight, down to Club Corner. They're in fifth gear now. They brake down into fourth gear now. Oh, and Surer using the grass there. A splendid midfield battle between Surer, Alboreto and Rosberg. But it's Lauda in the chicane. And still... Oh, and Alboreto is slotted by. Alboreto is past the Arrows. That chicane, which was put in to slow the cars past the pits, because on the old Woodford corner they were taking it flat, even back in the late 1970s or the middle 1970s. Niki Lauda. Wide line out of Beckett's. And Piquet not appearing to make very much impression. Piquet in second place, Lauda in sixth. But Piquet, I think, may well now on lap 56 of the 67 be settling for second place. And he doesn't want to force the pace, force his car, wear out his tyres. That's Patrick Tambay, the third man. And a lot of empty road before we get who should be Nigel Mansell. But it's Alboreto having his battle with Baldi, and it's Jacques Lafitte in there, of course, not Keke Rosberg, as we said earlier. Jacques Lafitte in there, tailing Baldi with the fourth place Lotus on his tail, and De Cesaris the next up. Baldi running ahead of De Cesaris in the two Alphas, 11.9 seconds, the gap between third man Tambay and fourth man Mansell. Now that means that on lap 63 he's got, what's that, 4 laps left. He's got to make up 3 seconds a lap, and that's an almost impossible task for Nigel Mansell to make up another place. But he's there in fourth. We're watching Tambay chase Guerrero in the Theodore, and trying to work his way through those back markers is Nigel Mansell. Mansell's got Baldi and Alboreto in front of him, and he goes through on the inside once more of Abbey Curve. That's his favourite place. Oh, and very wide for Alboreto. And Mansell goes right the way to the other side of the road, forcing his way past this battle. Nigel Mansell is through ahead of Alboreto and Baldi and De Cesaris and Jacques Lafitte. Still that piece of engine cowling sitting in the middle of the road, but Nigel Mansell on lap 64 now, still 11.9 seconds, and that is going to be very hard to close. But Mansell driving as he must know, the race of his life in front of his home crowd. And this new Lotus clearly more stable in the corners and lighter than its predecessor. It's not the first Lotus, of course, with the Renault turbo engine. That was the 93, but it is the first time that Nigel Mansell has had the benefit of Renault power in a race, because it's been Elio De Angelis running the turbo Renault powered 93 for most of this season, and Nigel Mansell has had to make do with the Cosworth. He's now got Renault turbo power, and goodness me, isn't he making good use of it. And there is another man with turbo Renault power. It's leader Alain Prost with the Renault turbo. It seems surprising to remember that it's 6 years since Renault first came to Silverstone with their new turbocharged car, with Jean-Pierre Jabouille at the wheel. It was slow and it was unreliable, and a lot of people, one of them Ken Tyrrell, said the turbo will never work. In fact, we discovered some seasons later that Ken Tyrrell was offered by Renault a deal to run the late Patrick Depailler with Renault engines in the Tyrrell, but he decided it wasn't the way to go, and indeed the Cosworth still had plenty of life in it at that stage. But today the turbos have absolutely dominated the race. This is lap 66 that Prost is finishing. It's lap 67 he's starting of the 67 laps of the race. So this is the final lap for Alain Prost, and 6 years after that unreliable and unimpressive debut, and many millions of pounds later, the Renault team has produced very much a winner. Prost is going to win this race. If he does, it'll be his third win of the season, and he must be looking very good for the championship title this year as the Grand Prix circus goes into its fast races. Silverstone is fast, Hockenheim in 3 weeks is fast, the Österreich-Ring a week after that is fast, and it's going to be turbo circuits for the rest of the month of August, as Alain Prost sits on the tail yet again of Marc Surer, whose arrows is to be lapped. It's not Surer, it's Boutsen this time, Thierry Boutsen, the young Belgian, and I think that Prost is going to stay behind him. He doesn't want to risk anything at this stage. He's got a comfortable lead. He's got the checkered flag waiting for him as he comes down into the chicane for the 67th and last time. Boutsen goes through ahead of him, and the checkered flag is waiting for Alain Prost. There is the flag. Alain Prost wins the 1983 British Grand Prix. He raises his left arm in a delighted salute. A splendid victory, his third of the year, his 8th in his career. Here is Nelson Piquet coming through to take second place in the Brabham. Piquet is second. We wait for Patrick Tambay, who's going to be third. Checkered flags waving on both sides of the circuit now, just to make sure we all know that the race is over. Rosberg takes the flag a lap down. And there is our fourth man in that gaggle. Number 12, the second of those cars, is Nigel Mansell, who takes a magnificent fourth place, immediately lifts off because the two Alfa Romeos go by, Baldi and De Cesaris, who are going to finish 7th and 8th. But there is our leader, Prost, 9 points in the World Championship for him. Piquet is second in the Brabham, Tombay's Ferrari is third, Mansell, as we said, fourth, René Arnoux' Ferrari is fifth, and Niki Lauda takes a championship point and his first non-turbo home with the McLaren in 6th place. Baldi 7th, De Cesaris 8th. John Watson is 9th and second non-turbocharged car home, so he's come up to 9th from 24th place on the grid, and that's a great effort by him. 10th is Jean-Pierre Jarier in the Ligier, and Keke Rosberg is 11th with the Williams. That's small reward for all his efforts, but today at Silverstone what you needed was a turbocharged engine, and that's exactly what this man had, Alain Prost, completing his lap of honour, waving to the crowd. A wonderful effort by him. He disposed of the Ferraris really so effortlessly. He made a perfect refuelling stop thanks to the help that he had from his hard-working mechanics, and he's got 9 more points in the World Championship, and there he is at the top of the table with a 6-point lead over Nelson Piquet. Patrick Tambay still there in 3rd place, a couple of points behind Piquet. Rosberg is still 4th, although he didn't score today. Arnoux 5th, and John Watson still in the picture with the McLaren in 6th place, and no doubt waiting for his turbocharged engine to come in a couple of Grand Prix' time. So 9 gruelling Grand Prix already completed this year, 6 left to go. We've got another one coming up in England because there's the new extra Brands Hatch date in September. And now on the winner's rostrum, in the middle, in the blue, Prost. On the right, in the red, it's Tombe. And on the left, in the white, it's Piquet. All spraying the champagne for all they're worth, spraying the journalists, spraying the spectators. All the joy and the delight of a job well done for Prost as he throws his laurel wreath to the crowd. Tombe throws his hat, and we all reflect on a great British Grand Prix and look ahead 3 weeks now to round 10. That'll be in Germany, the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim. We'll be there, so why don't you join us?